Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and most thanks to my technical assistant, Tabitha, it has been said that our friend the bee is the basis for life on Earth. But lately, honeybees have been disappearing in droves. In 2006, beekeepers noticed the dwindling populations, particularly in California, Florida, Oklahoma, and Texas. While this problem for pollinators may be a pleasure for picnickers, according to the Scientific American, colony collapse disorder, also called CCD, since these days we need acronyms, is a condition in which adult honeybees mysteriously abandon colonies, leaving what they call ghost hives. And these hives are full of honey, larvae, and abandoned queen, which is very strange because bees rarely leave their young, let alone their queen. For this speech, I'm going to go over some frightening facts about this crisis, its real-world impact, and suggestions on what you can do. Did you know that the honeybee is the world's premier pollinator? Did everybody know that? No. Okay. Bees help produce more than honey, beeswax, and other direct products. They are responsible for the pollination of these things you see in front of you here: almonds, apples, blueberries, cherries, and pears. Interestingly, bananas don't require this pollination, and pineapples are pollinated solely by hummingbirds. It's important to note that without the bee, only plants that thrive on wind pollination, like corn, wheat, and rice, would flourish. So this would be your diet without bees. However, the demise of the honeybee is not a new problem. It's just a problem that's recently received a lot of attention. Over the past 2 decades, there's been a 40% decline in the United States alone. If the current rate of decline continues, it is estimated that honeybees will cease to exist in the United States by 2035. That sounds pretty far away, but it's actually not. This problem isn't isolated to the United States. Yesterday's headlines from Great Britain indicated that honeybee deaths reached a crisis point in the UK. 30% of that country's bee population did not survive the winter and spring months. Top scientists are attempting to determine the causes of colony collapse disorder. The Department of Agriculture has set up a working group with 6 universities. On August 11th, UC Davis announced that it will receive a $100,000 grant from Haagen-Dazs to fund a postdoctoral researcher position. And the Haagen-Dazs clip was what you saw at the beginning. These funds will be used to support research on sustainable population as well as colony collapse disorder. In current theories, there are 4 possible factors that scientists refer to as stressors that may cause or contribute to the bee decline. And this has also caused corporate campaigns like the Haagen-Dazs one I mentioned, and Burt's Bees, who manufacture beeswax and lip products, to have their own campaigns and fundraisers to support the bees. I want to stress that under normal circumstances, bees just don't get lost and not return. They're equipped with a very sophisticated navigation system that allows them to follow the sun and various landmarks to the flowers. Then the unique smell of their own hives guides them back. Unfortunately, the bees are not equipped to survive very long outside of the hive. The possible factors, as I said, are referred to as stressors, are as follows: Israeli acute paralysis virus, parasitic mites, pesticide exposure, and urban sprawl. And I'll explain each one of these. In September 2007, the Scientific American reported that researchers at Columbia University discovered the presence of Israeli acute paralysis virus in bee colonies affected by colony collapse disorder. It is thought that this deadly and obscure bug originated from the 2004 importing of Australian bees to the United States. Australian beekeepers had been reporting disappearances of their bees, but not on the same scale as the United States. So they performed all kinds of genetic comparison in which they autopsied the bees, examined the RNA, and that's the chemical that encodes active genes, of the infected colonies, and compared them with healthy bees from Hawaii and Pennsylvania. Then they analyzed individual hives. Researchers at this point are unsure if it's a cause, a symptom, or an indicator. Another key difference between the Australian and American bees is the presence of a varroa mite. And this little parasite attaches itself to the back of the bee and then flies back to the hive with it. Once it gains entry, it buries itself down into the cells, it feeds on the larvae, lays eggs, and that continues the cycle. Widespread pesticide use, especially what they call neonicotinoids, a synthetic chemical based on nicotine, is another theory that could be a factor. There's not adequate research to back this up yet, but what this does is it causes insects to lose their sense of navigation and breaks down their immune system. Now, these chemicals are thought to be safer for widespread use, and they use them on cornfields, golf courses, and you even put them on your pet when you apply something like Advantage or Frontline. Now, of course, the Bayer corporations denied any connection whatsoever with it, but more research needs to be done on this angle. Urban sprawl over the past 20 years is the last contributing factor, and this is where homes spread over what was previously fields of clover or wildflowers. Of course, all these need more rigorous investigation. There was another theory that cell phones were causing the disappearance of bees, but that's been discredited. It was a widely propagated internet theory. The estimated value of the bee population in U.S. agriculture is $15 billion annually. Nearly half of all the existing 2.5 million hives in the United States are needed to pollinate almond crops alone. Bees are the workhorses of commercial agriculture. Beekeepers, especially commercial ones, transport truckloads of bees to Florida in the winter, where they'll pollinate citrus and melons, and to the north in the spring to take care of apples and cherries. Now, this isn't a new idea. In fact, the ancient Egyptians used to transport these bees over the Nile. The interesting factor is humans and machines cannot effectively replicate the work that the bee does to pollinate all these plants. There are over 120 industrial uses for beeswax. Drugs, polishes, lubricants, and skincare products are examples. And now that you have these facts, I want everybody to take a moment to envision the world without our friend the bee. Your trip to the grocery store would drastically change. Imagine all these disappear, and once again, you have these. No refreshing apples, tempting raspberries, pears. Your wardrobe would also change, since cotton plants produce higher yields when they're pollinated by bees. The landscape would lack the beauty and utility of wildflowers. And if you're wondering what utility means, it's the medicines that are derived from certain plants. One example is digitalin. This comes from the foxglove plant, and it's used to regulate heart rhythm, and this would disappear. Now, recognize that small, like our bee, is significant. This is something we tend to discredit today. We tend to not think about the small things. Imagine and realize what you yourself can do for this large-scale problem. Be compassionate. Use diverse, colorful plants in gardening. Use native plants, and don't forget those wildflowers. Be informed. Buy organic when you can. Support local beekeepers. Contact your lawmaker and let them know that you're concerned about this problem and would like the funding put to it in the Department of Agriculture to act. My last suggestion is to be daring. Raise honeybees of your own. And if anyone would like, I have some websites that direct you to how to do that after the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you very much, Tom.